Note to File, a clinical research podcast.
A collection of interviews, candid commentary, and general nonsense for the clinical research community.
Check us out at notetofilepodcast.com.
And now, without further ado, on to the show.
All right, what's up, guys? I feel like it's been a hot minute since we've done sort of a regular podcast. So how's it going?
Good. I mean, yeah, it's been since September, right? It's been at least a couple of weeks.
What month is it right now?
It's October 14th today.
Dang, dude.
I know.
The time, it flies, as they say. Cool. Yeah, it's been a lot of conferences lately, right? SCRS, ING, which we did a live stream from there, so that was something.
Guys, just different. It's weird. It's basically a different vibe doing it.
Yeah,
all like their normal setup and stuff, and with the chaos of like conference activities and such. Not bad.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
sure.
it is not just anything that's not the normal thing.
Well, then there was SCRS, and then earlier this month there was Summit, and I mean, I feel like September, October, like this is one of the windows, and then it's like what, January through like March is like the other one.
Yeah, I mean February, March.
I guess, yeah, we have like, I think January is more so like internal, like commercial field kickoff type stuff. So there's a lot for me anyway. For like
dorks, corporate dorks.
Yeah.
Sounds really cool.
Yeah. It's in Orlando, so don't worry.
Yeah.
Everything's in Orlando. I don't know. Kills me.
It's Orlando feels so nondescript. Like,
so I think this statement that someone used to describe Orlando, which just seemed really fitting, is it's the city where you go to wait for the things you already paid for. So it's like you're waiting in line at Disney World or Universal, like you're waiting to get in, you're waiting for the rides, and then like conferences, like you pay a ridiculous amount of money and then you're just kind of like standing around waiting for it to be worth something.
Yeah, I could see that. It just feels like it's the chain restaurants of cities. The chain restaurant of cities.
Yeah,
that means.
That actually makes a lot of sense. I was trying to DoorDash something to my room when I was in Orlando, and I literally could not find. I was trying to find like local places, and the only local places were like absolutely ridiculous, like Humpty Dumpty something or other. And I was like, I don't know if I trust.
You're ordering from a food truck, or
right.
Either a food truck or an Olive Garden. Those are your two options.
Maybe a Red Lobster, maybe a P.F. Chang's.
All great fare.
I've actually eaten quite a bit of P.F. Chang's this past couple of weeks because it's always in the airports, and it's like I got sick traveling, and so it's like you want soup and shit. And I don't know.
That's fair.
We also don't
rather
have one anymore.
Eat anything other than that. But
yeah, well, I'm not about to go eat like, I don't know, Bojangles chicken or something. So
I mean, Bojangles is where it's at.
Okay, sure.
All right, let's jump in, shall we? I know we touched. Actually, hold on. Let me get this fixed up. I'm already behind.
See? We're just not.
I already forgot. I forgot how to do this. We talked a little bit about this like shortly during the live stream, but I think it deserves more attention. And look, we're probably going to talk about it again, trying to get the journalist on here in the next couple of weeks or sometime in November. But this discussion about private equity. So look, you and I have both sort of like railed on public equity. Hold on, I can't talk.
Take a pause, deep breath.
Private equity, public equity, one of the two. In healthcare, well, in research, but then maybe in healthcare more broadly. So I thought this was really interesting, and I know this is something maybe you know more about than I do, but even 10 years ago, there were concerns from Congress about IRBs and their lack of transparency.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was 2019 was when I first. Well, full disclosure, used to work for one of these lovely organizations. And I remember that was one of the first questions I had, is thinking about like, okay, what is an IRB? How does it do? How does then private equity play into that? And they cover that a lot in the article, just like the fundamental questions around private equity in commercial IRBs. Like, you're getting paid to approve, you're more likely to use it. If you approve more, is it driven by profit or actual ethics?
Yeah.
That's the fundamental question, like the core. And that was the 2019 piece. I think it was like Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren,
Right.
wrote letters, right, to the two major commercial IRBs, which are out there on the onlines. You can still find them somewhere. And that was like the basic fundamental concern, was like, is the model, is private equity, can it be aligned with delivering commercial IRBs? And that was like the first question, right?
Well, I mean, I've been assured by many people that there's a wall between ethics committee and everything else, which this article actually seems to bring up, the opposite of that in a very specific way, which I find fascinating. And look, again, this is something I've wondered about for a long time, so it's nice to see it being taken seriously, because I feel like sometimes when I've asked about it on LinkedIn and people are like, oh no, that could never be. And I'm like, I think you have to be ridiculously naive to think that there isn't at least the very easy possibility for conflicts of interest that could affect things like patient safety and the drugs that we all may have to take one day.
Well, and I think the consideration I have around this is like, even if they're very, are walls, right, that connect them, at some point there's the end of the wall, right? Like, there at the end point there is a shared nexus point, whether that is leadership or the board or wherever. There is a you're all reporting up through, and at some point that wall ends because it goes to a single group of people, right, or a single person,
Right.
what have you. So like, yes, fundamentally and like day to day there may be that wall, but like ultimately the the decision makers at the very, very top are still the same for both sides of the wall.
Money. Yeah. Right. I mean, they just don't know. Like, the CEO doesn't know what's going on the IRB side. Like,
they should know what's going on all sides of their business, right? Like, but they wouldn't be doing their job if they didn't. So it's just like, it's there's a wall when it's convenient and not when it's not. And
yeah, right. Well, let's get there. Let's dive in a little bit. Okay. So, it focuses heavily on Novo Nordisk and WCG. Specifically, well, first of all, let's go backwards a little bit. The fact that like reviews are not public, they're confidential, which does seem immediately kind of problematic, right? I feel like it would be good to know exactly what's happening at these things.
Well, I mean, it comes down to like the concept about like, why are we so protective and private about this shit regardless? Like, as an industry, like, we're so like secretive about like who can have my information. It's like, ultimately we just need to be more collaborative, but this is just another flavor of that.
Yeah. Yep. No, I don't agree. And then again, it kind of goes more broadly talking about, there's private equity in both Advara and WCG, who are basically the two that, run the whole show. I mean, there are some independents coming back. Sorry, I'm trying to look at Nelson's comment here. Yes, only sites own IRBs. I mean, shouldn't IRBs be independent? Ethics committee, shouldn't they be independent? So I'm not sure what your implication is exactly, but that's okay. I'm sure you'll enlighten me. The basic premise of like, private equity ownership potentially weakens oversight, which right now, people aren't real hype on big pharma anyway. So, maybe it's not the best thing for trust. Articles like this are probably not good.
Yeah.
In general, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's in general, but I think it's a fair point to make that you want to bring this up, right? Like, and it's addressed. And I think the thing that I think is most disappointing is like the lack of transparent, it being addressed in a transparent way from either of these groups. Like it's very like canned PR, 3-line communication, which also doesn't like necessarily instill confidence that like this isn't the case.
Yeah, agree. So let's go. It goes down here. Sorry, I haven't actually read the article recently, so I'm trying to find where we start getting into the idea that, Novo is essentially, if you go up the chain, like is one of the big investors in WCG.
We have like a shared PE party, right?
Right. So you start getting into like, it also talks about how after that happened, the studies that WCG was reviewing for Novo went up, substantially, which, I mean, there could be other good reasons for that. I mean, in fairness, WCG pretty much bought everything. Goes a little bit into the, Copernicus, but I feel like they kind of slowly bought up everybody anyway. So your options kind of become limited at that point, right?
Yeah, it's Walmart or Target. There's not a whole lot of mom and pop shops left.
Yeah, not a whole lot. And I guess even then, like, I don't know, that's a little bit of a weird one because, if I'm a site, I can pick which IRB I want to use. Like, I'm not necessarily, like, the sponsor does have a central IRB that, like, they may have everything already reviewed out. But if I was like, no, I want to use a different IRB, I mean, obviously all these universities use local IRBs, which doesn't really matter. Sorry, Nelson, reading out. It's the best IRB to evaluate Johns Hopkins research conduct, an IRB owned by Johns Hopkins. In fact, that's what every IRB used to be. Yeah, I mean, I'd be curious, could you tell me how much money Johns Hopkins profits from their IRB? If it's being run for profit, then maybe that's a question. But I mean, the concept of a local IRB is not offensive to me because that's literally their fucking community. So they give a shit a whole lot more than somebody in Puyallup, Washington, or whatever they are. So conceptually, I'm not against that. Yeah, do they own it? I mean, I guess they own it, but is it a profit center? I would very seriously doubt that that's the case. I mean,
I don't think research is a profit center at many of these organizations, full stop.
No, probably not. But, that's okay. So yeah, I mean, that's fine. I mean, if you're arguing that like the system now is the one that makes the most sense, then that's fair, I guess. I think these are legitimate. Site owns themselves in almost all scenarios, right? I mean, sure. But I mean, if you believe that there's the same level of intent between private equity ownership and a local IRB, then I think that's a ridiculously false equivalence. Somebody has to technically own it, right? But there's different types of ownership that have different intents, which I think
is like motivating for like research trial approval, the same level of potential conflict of interest that the financials component of it. And I would argue it's not.
Well, and look, I've never had a correction on a consent form from a central IRB in my entire life, but the local IRBs beat me up. I feel like they probably did care a lot. My understanding is that self-policing ethical conduct has less teeth than outside policing. What policing is happening, though? I think that's the point. But fair. So yeah, I'd be curious to know what you think the best answer is, but I'm going to keep going. Where did we go there? So, again, we kind of go into the idea, talk about the specific private equity investors in these. Let's see. And how WCG bought 31 companies that recruit research subjects, which is something I've always been curious. Like, so they plan studies, recruit studies, train investigators, provide consulting, data monitoring, bought a bunch of competing review boards, which is, I mean, maybe fair enough, but I've always thought it was weird to be able to play both sides of the coin. But
Well, it's interesting because you made the kind of like, and I think a lot of organizations, when you get to this scale, that's how they grow, right? It's through M&A of different organizations, and you grow through diversifying, and there's some sense to that. And it's interesting. The question I have on the counter side of that is how truly like integrated and coordinated are these? So like, I've been through parts of M&As, and it's like, yeah, we're all part of one organization, but like, sure as shit doesn't feel like it. And so like there like maybe there's not like I mean maybe there's firewalls, right? There's purposeful, we talked about the onset like that, but like how coordinated are all of these different newly acquired companies, and like is there just sort of like a inherent disconnect because of poor integration? You know what I mean? Or like ability to truly integrate at that scale, at that many organizations.
Sure.
So maybe like inadvertently through M&A challenges, they truly might be more separated than we'd think.
Sure. And Nelson, fair point. An IRB that it's not allowed to have a conflict of interest with their side or a sponsor, which, look, someone has got to pay an IRB, I guess, to do the work that they do just to exist. But to your point, I mean, at the very least, either disclosing or not being allowed to have those types of conflicts would certainly go a long way, right?
So that's an interesting one, though, because I feel like, and again, it's been a minute since I read this article through, but I feel like, don't they talk about how there's very little like actual oversight of the IRBs in that scenario, though? So like, who's going to be like governing that, right? Like right now, it sort of like doesn't seem like there's a whole lot.
Yeah, it says here that WCG already claims they use appropriate disclosure to manage potential conflicts. And to your point, Nelson, here, conflicts also exist in universities and things like that as well. So, yeah, I'd be curious. I mean, I guess, I don't know, it becomes a question of scale. But look, I don't think it's inappropriate. It is true. There's either a conflict with the sponsor or a conflict with the site. I don't know. I guess I would argue that maybe one stands to gain a lot more, but maybe not. Maybe that's not accurate either.
I think the scale is different because a site is a single site in it. So even if there is, that's a small piece of what's going on in that protocol versus a larger scale, like more wide-reaching impact. So like maybe that is for a segment of the trial has challenge or something with that, but that's one small piece of it. Whereas if it is at the sponsor level, it is a lot more. The implications of it could be much more wide-reaching.
Yeah, fair. I agree. Here's the part where it kind of got interesting to me that in 2019, Novo's parent, Novo Holdings, joined some other private equity firms, in trying to get WCG to IPO, which they did not. Two Novo Holdings officials took seats on the board for WCG. WCG's former CEO joined Novo's advisory board. So they've got so much of cross-pollination, right? Which, you immediately said they went from, in 7 years, reviewing 17 studies to 6 years doing 46. Now, obviously, I'm going to guess they also just did a crap load more trials maybe in that time.
Right. Right. Like, I mean, they're looking at the market segment of like what was happening with GLP-1s in that whatever 12-year span, right? Like you're gonna see a massive difference. I think that's the thing about this article that is interesting. It brings a lot of like things that you could like extrapolate from and like make, is there a conflict of interest? Is there not? I think the fundamental issue is that we're having that conversation. And maybe this is all truly above board and there's nothing, and that's great. I genuinely hope that's what's happening. The fact that this raises enough of a question as we're reading the article, for the people who are looking into it to write the article, fundamentally, like that to me is the biggest thing. Like the fact that there is such a clear potential for conflict of interest is the question. Not that it is a conflict of interest happening, not that there is like clear proof that like this is happening, this is bad, and someone did something, egregious or malicious, but it's obvious enough that there could be, and that's the concern.
Sure. Yeah.
Like
I mean,
that
the whole
to me
thing
is
is
the
just
biggest piece.
the whole thing is fascinating to me, like just broadly. There goes on to talk about some other interesting things, like whether some people claim to have quotas when it came to reviewing consent forms, which I thought was kind of interesting. I don't know. That's probably doesn't look great.
Not a great look. No.
There was something else that I found really interesting.
I mean, that's my favorite quote right there.
Which one?
The Cracker Barrel quote. It's
why did I miss it?
It's right there, 2024 in an employment dispute. The former, right there in the middle. Yeah.
Testifying in 2024 in an employment dispute, a former WCG vice president, Michael Demo, said one executive took disfavored employees to the back of a local Cracker Barrel restaurant to scream at an appropriate volume. So,
I'm going to take the context here. It's an employment dispute. You have disgruntled folks involved. Like, they're going to paint a picture, but damn it, they painted a pretty entertaining picture.
Yeah, imagine getting yelled at by in a
like,
Cracker Barrel.
So many questions in that statement. I found it amusing. I mean, I know the scenario itself is probably not amusing, but like from an outside looking in, there's just a lot of questions that I have regarding to like what led to this. What series of events led for a group of VPs to be at a Cracker Barrel at a work event to such a point that it became they needed to get disciplinary action,
right.
and that it got to the point then that it had to be verbally loud, so they had to I have so many questions.
Yeah, I also find it interesting that for whatever reason they have a retired Army General Stanley McChrystal as consulting for them.
For what?
I don't know. Wasn't that like a whole thing with Theranos too? They had a bunch of generals on their board. I don't know, I guess it looks cool. I don't know.
I mean, I guess if you're doing military research, that makes a lot of sense, but I'm not aware of
that. There was also, again, I was trying to find, there's a particularly interesting thing here when I talked about at the top. People are saying oh, there's such a firewall, but it talks about them replacing some of the IRB board members with WCG employees after private equity investment came through, which that to me is pretty compelling,
pretty blatant. Yeah.
Here we go. They also replaced outside review panel members with Western employees. The private equity, he added, anything you can do to improve the bottom line, you do it. And I think that leads to a lot less rigorous reviews than that doctor who was talking about this. I mean, look, that's literally how much more blatant could you get?
Well, and I think that's an interesting concept, because I think there's the difference between, again, getting into what is explicitly stated. Did we have quotas? Was this a requirement? Are you having explicit conversations? Or is it the mindset of, we got purchased by private equity, they're going to clear house, I have to make sure I look good enough so I maintain employment, retain my position, have opportunity for advancement. And the fundamental concept is, we're in this to make money. So do I start independently making decisions to support my team, myself, in ways that maybe aren't, the alignment shifts, right?
Sure.
So it's not necessarily spoken, but it's saying hey, this is what you have to do. Well, I'm okay. This is what it means for me. I'm going to do it. So no one's explicitly telling you to do anything, but you start internalizing culturally what the underlying mission is of our company now.
Sure.
And for me to maintain employment, support my family, live my life.
Money.
And how much of that is, so again, it gets into, I think a lot of this could be above board. A lot of this mightn't have any explicit malicious intent, but fundamentally the underpinnings, the culture, the status of it is there. And there's enough to have concern there. It's just an interesting.
I think so. And I mean, Nelson, thank you for all your thoughts. I do generally agree. I mean, yeah, if a huge site network owned an IRB and ran all their studies through it, yeah, I think that would be probably just as concerning. Although, yes, I mean, I think maybe that could be slightly different. But yes, I don't disagree. And look, if we have independent nonprofit IRBs, wouldn't that be ideal? Or I guess to the earlier point, like just open disclosure, like of all of these things. Maybe then at least people can know what's up. But also the fact, like when those letters were written by Congress people or senators or whatever to the IRBs, as far as I know, the IRBs did not respond in any meaningful way. And we're
There was
probably
no there was no legal obligation to, so of course they did not.
no, yeah, of course there's no legal obligation, but for God's sakes, man, like I don't know. Again, I guess that's the big takeaway is like, look, they're there to make money, but they should be there to protect you, right?
Well, and I get this too, like at the onset of this, like the fundamental goal here is to protect the patient.
Well, and yeah, you have to ever wonder if, making money and protecting patients are at odds, what's going to win?
Well, I mean, the real world example I'll use here is rural health and private equity investments in rural health, where it was clear that it was not. So, like, take research out of it. You look at PE and healthcare delivery at scale. What happened to rural health was it invested and they shut down hospitals. Patients lost access to care, to specialists. Like, we saw that happen, play out in real time.
Sure.
We can argue this and go back and forth, and it's hypotheticals. We saw this play out with rural health. It's still happening.
I was going to say we still are and will for foreseeable future.
So whereas what's most important, what's proved in that case has been the bottom line, not patient access to care.
There you go. But go read the article. It's the New York Times. We're trying to get Walt on here in the next by like early November. So I'm curious to hear what else he maybe uncovered that didn't make the article, which I assume there's some juicy stuff probably in all the interviews. Well, we're already at a half hour, but we'll cover this because you did send it. I do find it fascinating. It's from about a month ago. 1/3 of data collected in clinical trials may be unnecessary.
I'm not seeing it.
You're not seeing it?
Mm-mm.
Oh, you know how to share the tab instead of see?
We're out of practice.
Well, this has always been the way that God damn it. The way that StreamYard works is a little bit funky anyway. So let me try this. Bear with me, people. If you're listening on audio, then I'm doing everything perfectly. And
just taking some nice long pauses before we transition. Well, I think this is when we talked to Dan Shell at his time at D-Farm. I think they kind of talked about this as well. Like this was covered a little bit in there with Ken Getz and about like research.
Yeah, this is big.
Right?
I want to talk to Ken Getz, man. Somebody get me Ken Getz because I feel like he does a lot of this research. It's interesting. I'm curious to know more, but this does reference Tufts, which I think that's like where he does his thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Trent, sorry, but go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh no, I was just gonna say I think I was covering for our audio listeners as you pulled it up.
Oh, thank you. You were covering my my terrible. Appreciate you. Incompetence.
Yeah, there we go. I mean, it's basically just saying like a giant, third of data points we collect in trials aren't actually needed, aren't actually used.
Sorry, my phone is going bonkers.
Got an amber alert or a silver alert.
Yeah, there's like a terrible criminal on the loose or something.
Okay.
So, anyways, yeah, no, and I sat through I say sat through. That sounds like a negative way to say it. When I went to SCRS, one of their opening sessions was Ken Getz talking about data, some of this data, and that the amount of procedures and assessments have gone up like bonkers over the last 10 years or so. Well, here you go. Number of data points collected in a phase 3 trials jumped from 929,000 to 3.5 million between 2012 and 2020. So who knows where it's gone since then.
Yeah, I mean, like that's probably pre-COVID data. So,
yeah.
well, it's like is this just because people are like, oh, we're here, we're doing the thing, might as well add a few new things and like other things because like you're here, we're gonna take the extra measurements, we're gonna do this just in case we need it, which like I kind of
Yeah,
get it, but then also like does it?
Yeah, well, and I think this covers that a little bit, the difference between sort of non-core and then versus non-essential, which is like the data they need, but keep doing it anyway. I mean, again, I have to wonder, like, is there a world where we have like very short and very specific protocols that are just like answering one question? And yeah, maybe there's more of them, but this can get done like very quickly, which you would think like maybe that'd be a net positive. Maybe you get to your nose sooner. I don't know. Maybe this is naive too, but I have to think like maybe there's a good reason they're doing it this way. Maybe there's some benefit overall in the long term, but
I could see it argued both ways, right? Where it's like you are already conducting it, you're already going through the reviews, you're selecting the sites, like there's like the overhead to run the trial. Might as well gather some extra data points while you're doing it. So I get that like in theory that way, but it feels like this is another like to the extreme. Like it's not like we're adding a couple other things. It's like, hey, we copied and pasted this protocol and added another question and a whole other set of, data points that we're going to collect. So we're going to collect the old ones, even though they might not be relevant, but it's already been approved. Don't have to think about it. As you just like slowly copy and paste and bloat the protocols as they go on. So it's now like exacerbated.
Yeah, I would hope that, I would like to think if you're going to do that, then like, shouldn't like some really good protocols come out of that later? Like you got all this data, do something with it that maybe leads to an easier or shorter protocol down the road, but it's not just more and more and more and more and more and more.
Well, but that's the thing. I think that we're not using the data, so we don't even know. Like,
I feel like that's the thing. We have so much data, but so little like insight into like what the hell that data means.
Don't worry, AI is gonna solve it. I was reading an article today.
Yeah, we need more agents, though, for sure. We need more agents,
for sure,
whatever that means.
No, I was literally looking at shit for today, and I was like, "Don't worry, like NLP is gonna solve all of our data problems." And I was like, "Welcome to 3 years ago." Like, what?
Well, I'm sure any day now. Well, it's interesting. I mean, we're trying to play a little bit with AI in some of the recruitment space. I know there was an article you sent, but we didn't get to today. That maybe it's not going anywhere, so I think we'll probably have plenty of time to cover it. Yeah, put it on the list. I'm sure we'll get to it because I am curious to know, especially as somebody who works at a site, which maybe is a little unique, but like where is AI going to actually help? Because look, it's not all going to be garbage. They'll figure out some ways to make it work.
Well, no, I mean, I think it's a very real, very helpful thing. I just think.
I mean, so yeah. Right now, it feels still just like a fancy search engine, like in a lot of ways. And again, I have a very
that is why you need
childish understanding.
If you want to talk about agents,
but I feel like people are like, oh, using it to write LinkedIn posts and tell you what recipe to make with the ingredients you have in your refrigerator. Like, who gives a shit about that?
I'm not mad at that.
I know, but I'm saying like, again, and I'm not smart enough to like build fancy bots or agents or whatever. So again, perhaps? Maybe that's stuff coming, but
well, I think it is. It's just like, I think that's the thing is like people are excited about it. They put on all their marketing shit, but like to actually develop truly your own AI, that takes teams and data science and time.
Sure.
As opposed to like, I'm going to write a query and plug it into ChatGPT's. Well, yes, you are using AI and you are not developing AI. And I think the cool things that are going to happen is when you're developing true AI, which again takes time and resources, and it's not like using someone else's AI to like do something, which is cool, still helpful, right? Like,
yeah, for sure.
But I think so much people are saying like, oh, it's this new AI thing, and it's like, no, you're just fucking using ChatGPT or Gemini or something, like plugging in a search query. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it will be cool. I just think it's
like everything. You get so like inundated with it that it all feels like a scam. And again, you guys got to wait. You just got to be patient. Wait for all the crap to sort of like, again, it was the DCT thing. Everything was DCT. A lot of companies pivoted. Some of it just kind of went away, and we still got stuff that is useful and works. But like during that time when it was hot, it was just nauseating to have to listen to and see and read everywhere. But makes it real easy to have fun with and make fun of and be silly about until like the truly useful stuff kind of comes out the other end, you know. So it is what it is. What do we got Thursday? We got Doug Bain on Thursday. I was trying to set you up. And you whiffed.
You know what?
I threw you like the alley-oop and you just like bricked it against the rim.
Like you sharing your screen?
Well, let's not talk about that. Okay. Anything else? Any other touches you want to put on today?
No, we'll be back Thursday, same time, same place.
Indeed. We'll have Doug on. I'm a big fan of Doug. Usually has a lot of nice insights into technology. And he has a real cool accent. So that goes a long way.
Sweet.
Very good. All right, guys. We will see you on Thursday. Peace. Thanks for listening to Note to File. We're committed to continuing to bring you independent and unfiltered coverage of the clinical trial industry.
We want to talk about what you want to hear. So if you have something on your mind, hit us up at notetofilepodcast.com.